What if your mind was so sharp, so independent, and so powerful that it intimidated everyone around you? In this video, we break Nietzsche's philosophy into 6 powerful ideas, each one a step toward becoming mentally unstoppable. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher, he was a force of nature. His ideas were wild, disruptive, and transformative, and they can teach you how to build an unshakable mind. Let's dive in. Chapter 1, Reject the Herd. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Friedrich Nietzsche. Mental strength begins with separation. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that most people don't truly think for themselves, they imitate. They absorb the values, goals, and fears of the people around them without ever questioning them. This is the essence of herd mentality. It's comfortable, it's familiar, and it's dangerous. Society rewards those who conform. It praises the agreeable, the obedient, the easily controlled. But Nietzsche's warning is clear. If you live by the herd's values, you will die with the herd's regrets. In his eyes, groupthink was not just a flaw of culture, but a trap for the human mind. He once wrote, "Insanity in individuals is something rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule." The scariest minds, the ones that truly stand apart, are not those that rebel aimlessly, but those that question everything, silently, relentlessly. They refuse to accept handed-down answers. They ask, why do I believe this? What does this belief serve? And what if the crowd is wrong? But this independence comes at a cost. Nietzsche knew it. To walk our own path is to face loneliness, discomfort, and resistance. He called this burden the fate of the free spirit, a person who turns away from comfort to face the sharp edge of truth. A strong mind doesn't conform to avoid conflict. It doesn't seek validation. It simply cannot accept anything unearned or unexamined. To build a mind that scares people, you must first step away from them, not in contempt, but in courage. You must stop asking to be accepted and start demanding to be honest. When you do, people won't know what to do with you. Not because you're hostile or arrogant, but because you remind them of a freedom they abandoned long ago. Chapter 2, Embrace the Will to Power. At the core of Nietzsche's philosophy is a force he called the will to power, but it's often misunderstood. This isn't about dominating others or craving control over the world around you. It's about mastering yourself. The will to power is the inner drive to grow, to overcome, to elevate your mind above weakness, fear, and laziness. It's the force behind all real strength, not physical, not psychological. Nietzsche believed that the strongest people weren't those who controlled others, but those who could control their own instincts, thoughts, and desires. He wrote, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." In other words, if you don't take the lead in your own life, someone else will. A strong mind doesn't wait for motivation, it commands itself. It doesn't fold under pressure, it uses it. The will to power turns pain into fuel and failure into sharpening stones. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to prove your inner strength, not to the world, but to yourself. This mindset intimidates people, not because it's aggressive, but because it's unshakable. Most minds are reactive. They complain, blame, and depend. But a Nietzschean mind takes full responsibility for its state. No excuses, no shortcuts, no need for permission. To embrace the will to power is to take total ownership of your reality. It means you stop running from discomfort and instead ask, how can I use this to grow? It means no longer needing approval or applause, because your worth comes from your ability to rise not once, but over and over again. Chapter 3, Destroy False Morality. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just a critic of religion or culture. He was a destroyer of illusions. And one of the greatest illusions he targeted was morality. Not morality in the abstract, but the kind of morality that's been inherited, unquestioned, and used to weaken people rather to empower them. Nietzsche called this slave morality, a system of values built by the weak to control the strong. It glorifies obedience, humility, and guilt. It teaches that to suffer is noble, that to desire is sinful, and that to stand out is dangerous. He saw this morality as a form of psychological control. It doesn't make you better, it makes you harmless. And a harmless person is easily manipulated. Nietzsche warned us, morality is the herd instinct in the individual. In other words, when you accept values simply because they're popular or comfortable, you surrender your power without even realizing it. To build a mind that truly scares people, you must break free from this moral conditioning. That means going back to the roots, asking, whose values are these? Why was I taught this? And most importantly, does this belief make me stronger or smaller? Nietzsche wasn't saying you should reject all ethics or become a monster. He was saying you must build your own values, values rooted in strength, self-respect, and authenticity. This process isn't easy. It requires you to confront everything you've been told is good and evil. It demands courage because you'll be misunderstood, even hated by those still bound by the old rules. But here's the secret. Once you stop living to be good in someone else's system and start living to be honest in your own, you become untouchable. You act from power, not fear. You live by your own code, and that terrifies people who never wrote theirs. Chapter 4, Become the Übermensch. Part of Nietzsche's philosophy is one of his most powerful and misunderstood concepts, the Übermensch, or overman. This isn't some cartoonish superhuman or tyrant. The Übermensch is the person who has transcended the limitations of society, morality, and even their own former self. It's someone who doesn't just survive in the world, they redefine it from the inside out. Nietzsche believed that most people live reactively. They follow the rules they didn't write. They chase goals they didn't choose. But the Übermensch breaks that cycle. He doesn't look upward to a god or outward to society for purpose. He creates his own values, his own meaning, his own life philosophy. In a world where nihilism, the belief that life is meaningless, was creeping into modern thought, the Übermensch was Nietzsche's answer, not despair, but creation. He wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome." What did he mean by that? He meant that you should treat your current self as raw material, not a finished product. The Übermensch is constantly reshaping himself, discarding outdated beliefs and moving beyond weakness, fear, and dependency. He doesn't ask, is this acceptable? He asks, is this worthy of the person I'm becoming? This kind of person scares people, not because they're cruel or arrogant, but because they're free. Free from guilt, free from conformity, free from the need to explain themselves. The Übermensch doesn't need a crowd to cheer him on. He walks alone if he must, because his mission is too important, too personal, and too high for the herd to understand. To become this version of yourself, you must stop trying to fit in. Start trying to evolve. You must abandon comfort as a compass and let truth lead the way, no matter how painful or strange it looks. When you do this, when you live not by default but by design, you start to embody what Nietzsche called the highest form of life, the creator of meaning, the master of self, the overman. Chapter 5, Amor Fati, Love Your Fate. In a world obsessed with control, Nietzsche offers something radically different, acceptance, not of weakness but of reality. His concept of Amor Fati, or love of fate, is not passive resignation, it is active strength. It's the mental posture of someone who doesn't just endure what happens to them, but embraces it fully, fiercely, and even gratefully. Nietzsche wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." Think about that. Not just accepting the good moments or tolerating the bad, but wanting all of it. The heartbreak, the loss, the mistakes, the loneliness. Because each of those experiences, Nietzsche believed, is a necessary part of your becoming. This mindset is powerful because it breaks the cycle of complaint. Weak minds resist reality. They wish things were different, easier, more fair. But the strong mind, the Nietzschean mind, understands that every challenge is a teacher and every wound is a form of wisdom. Instead of asking, why me, you ask, what now? You don't just move on from adversity, you absorb it. You let it carve depth into your character. Amor Fati is terrifying to people because it signals total self-responsibility. It means you no longer play the victim. You no longer need pity. Your life, in all its pain and imperfection, is no longer something to fix or escape from. It's something to love. Not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Entirely yours. When you truly adopt Amor Fati, you become emotionally untouchable. Loss doesn't break you. Failure doesn't define you. Suffering doesn't scare you because you've stopped trying to escape the fire and instead, you become the kind of person who walks into it, knowing it will forge you into something greater. Chapter 6, Eternal Recurrence. Live as if you must repeat. Imagine this. One day, someone visits you and says, everything you've lived, every decision, every moment, every second, you will live again, over and over, exactly the same, for eternity. No changes, no edits, just a perfect repetition of your life on loop forever. This is Nietzsche's thought experiment called eternal recurrence, and it's one of the most powerful psychological tests ever imagined. He wasn't saying this literally happens, but asking, would you live your life differently if you knew you had to live it again and again? If the answer is no, then maybe something needs to change. This idea isn't meant to depress you, It's meant to shock you into clarity. It forces you to confront how much of your life you're wasting on fear, on resentment, on pleasing others, on waiting. It challenges you to build a life so intentional, so meaningful, that you would gladly live it again forever. Not because it's perfect, but because you choose it. Every scar, every risk, every turning point. Nietzsche once asked, what if, someday or night, a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, this life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more. Would you curse the demon, or would you bless him? If that thought terrifies you, good. It means you're awake. It means you're paying attention. Because a strong mind doesn't just drift through life hoping it gets better someday. It creates a life worth reliving, every day, in every version of eternity. That kind of mind scares people, not because it's ruthless, but because it's deliberate. It acts with the weight of infinity. It treats time like gold. It lives, speaks, and chooses as if everything matters, because it does. So ask yourself, if today had to repeat forever, would that be a nightmare, or would that be enough? Now you've seen it, the architecture of a mind so strong, so independent, so dangerously clear that it unsettles those who live on autopilot. But this strength doesn't come from domination. It doesn't come from being louder or more forceful. It comes from clarity, conviction, and the terrifying ability to stand completely alone, unmoved by praise, unaffected by judgment, and untouchable by fear. Let's look back. You rejected the herd because truth matters more than comfort. You embraced the will to power because no one is coming to save you. You destroyed false morality because your values must be forged, not borrowed. You became the Übermensch because you were not here to conform but to evolve. You learned to love your fate because suffering shapes strength. And you choose to live as if you must live again because every second is sacred. This is the Nietzschean mind, not cruel, not arrogant, just free. And in a world built on dependence, that is terrifying. People won't always understand you when you walk this path. Some will envy you, others will resist you. A few may even try to pull you back into the herd. But what they fear is not your strength, it's what your strength reveals about their weakness. So let them be afraid. The scariest mind is not the one that seeks control. It's the one that needs nothing. It's the one that answers to itself. It's the one that walks into fire, into chaos, into fate, and says, this too is mine. Now the question is simple. Will you build that mind, or will you fear it?